Hello guys, Charles here and welcome back to my channel. So we've covered quite a few different chord scales on this channel so far. However, I realised that other than using it as an example in my original What is a Chord Scale video, I've never actually gone through the chord scales that exist within the major scale itself, and of course it's a really important scale. So make sure you don't do what I did and accidentally forget about the major scale because we get carried away with all the other exciting ones. So let's look at this one today and look at some of the intervals that live within this scale. So I'm sure most of us are confident with the major scale by now. All we need to play is our root, tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So in C, that would sound like this. So all the examples we'll do today are going to be in the key of C, and as we did in the previous videos, we'll primarily stick to the middle four strings, but obviously you want to make sure you know these all around the neck on different string sets as well. So let's start by looking at the seconds that live within the major scale. Now, as I've said in all the previous videos, the seconds don't really sound great by themselves, but in a moment I'll demonstrate how they work well with thirds. So let's look at the thirds of the major scale now. So if we think of the seconds as a tension and the thirds as a release, we can get some pretty nice sounds, something along these lines. So next we'll look at the major chord scale using 6 chords, so starting on a C6. It's really difficult for all of these 4-note chord scales to really get them sounding as smooth as possible, so do try your best to focus on that as you're playing them. Next up, the major chord scale using 7 chords, so starting on C major 7. So finally we've got our 2 slightly weirder intervals, our fourths and our fifths. So let's start with fourths here. Some of these chords sound really great, and other ones you've got to be quite careful where you use them. So don't just be throwing these in any way you fancy. Let your ear guide whether they are an appropriate sound for the moment or not. And finally, fifths. So fifths really demonstrate how, even though the major scale is a very familiar sound to us, we can still get some pretty modern sounds, some uncommon sounds out of such a common scale. So here's how fifths sound. Really tricky again to get that one sounding smooth, but try your best to really focus on that. So do make sure you study these. You need to know these chords and intervals of every scale type that you want to really understand broadly. And the more you can push yourself to learn it in slightly unusual, less common ways, then that's just going to solidify your confidence as you work on it in more familiar contexts. So the major scale, there's so many things we can do with the major scale. It's really not a kind of beginner scale that we want to move on from as soon as possible. It is the most important scale, so study it as often and in as much depth and detail as you possibly can. Come up with all sorts of weird exercises and arpeggios and intervals and all sorts of different combinations of things that you know to make the scale as complicated for yourself as possible, to really challenge your brain to internalize that sound world and be able to do it in any formation that it appears. If you found that one useful, please do give this video a like, subscribe, ding the notification bell, and share with any of your friends who might also benefit from this content. Leave me a comment down below letting me know what else you'd like to see covered on this channel. And as always, I hope you're all doing very well, getting plenty of practice in, and I very much look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.
Roll up, let me embed a story you'll never forget. A drip, drip, we're drowning in debt now. You can't buy your way out. And